Hello, everyone. This is your host, Akil Jabbar, and welcome back to another episode of SaaS District. In today's episode, we'll be talking about how to implement performance management within your SaaS organization. Today, we have our special guest, Denis Coleman, joining us. Denis started his career as a chartered accountant, where he worked for U.S. multinationals located in Ireland, Eastern Europe, and the U.S. After about 2.5 years of researching management practices, behavioral science, and the competitive landscape, that led him to found his company, WorkCompass, in 2012. 8 years later, Denis is still the CEO of WorkCompass, which is a performance management software designed to help organizations to manage their talent through ongoing performance check-ins. The company software uses AI, or artificial intelligence, to improve performance appraisal, revenue growth, customer reviews, and domain influence, which enables organizations to set goals for their employees, monitor their progress, and give feedback, which we'll dive into more details in today's interview. So welcome, Denis. Glad to have you on our show today.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Cool. So I wanted to start with this quote that I saw you posted on an article, which is by one of my favorite writers, Peter Drucker, in Management Leaders, which I love. So I think it's called "Leadership is Lifting a Person's Vision to High Heights, the Raising of a Person's Performance to a Higher Standard." How do you interpret that quote, and how do you see leaders actually implement that statement to lift team members' vision to higher heights?
Yeah, I love Peter Drucker too, and that in particular. And I remember reading that many years ago, and it just resonated with me. It just struck a chord. And I suppose at the time it just clarified for me what I needed to do, what I needed to be as a founder, as a CEO. I think that's the name of the game, right? I mean, regardless of what size of an organization you're in or where you are in that organization, very, very quickly you stop being an individual contributor and you start being a leader of others or manager of others. And the game changes, and it's about helping them succeed. And I think most of the time helping them recognize or realize, right, that they're capable of far, far, far more than they think they are or you think that they are. I think, and never more so, I think, than in starting up your own business, right? Because every single day almost is a journey into the unknown and an attempt to do the impossible, right? I mean, you have to build a product and get customers with no time, no money, no product at the start, no staff, nothing. You have just nothing going for you, right? So you got to convince people and help people do something that has never been done, and they probably think they can't.
That's true. And I think that actually starts with yourself too, right? When you have no staff, it's like you have to believe in yourself that you can do this, right?
That's it, right? And I think there's a ton of reasons why. When you're starting your own business, the numbers are absolutely stacked against you, right? The failure rate is enormous, and you have to reconcile yourself with the fact that the numbers are stacked against you, but also, right, you have to go at it and convince yourself, right, that you're going to do, as long as you are willing to do whatever it takes, you're going to succeed. And you think you just have to go at it with that mindset, right? It doesn't matter. Whatever it happens, whatever it takes, I'm going to do it. And if you have that mindset, I think you will succeed. And if you have that mindset, you'll attract others with the same mindset, to your business, to your startup, to your project or whatever it is, right? And it kind of becomes infectious,
So I think that's defined more as, that's a good answer. And I think most people define that as
grit, right? It's a long answer,
right?
A short question.
Yeah.
Grit. Is it grit? I suppose, oh my God. I have 3 young kids, right? And let me tell you, that subject comes up a lot in our house,
Yeah.
And is it grit? I think that's probably a good explanation. And is teaching grit and being the exemplar and an example of grit what leadership is all about?
Mm.
I think it is to an extent. I think leadership is highly situational, right? I mean, in very big and stable companies, you want a leader that's going to look great. You can wheel him out or her. They look fantastic. They've got a great resume. The market's going to trust them, right? That's what you need at that point in time, right?
Yep.
But that's not what you need where I am, right?
Yeah.
That's not what you need as a scaling, software company, right? You need people that have a lot of grit, and you need to be the person that can show them what that is, Because it's in with a lot of people, I think.
Yeah, and so maybe it's hidden within them, but maybe it's not. So just tying back to that statement, your goal is to try to get the best out of them, and maybe you give them the opportunity to step up and to a role that maybe they thought they never could. But can you teach grit, or is it at what point do you have that balance of deciding this person isn't capable of stepping into that? Or, affecting the business.
I think, there's thousands of people around the world trying to answer that question. Sure. And I'm not sure I know I've nailed it, but I'll give you my 2 cents, right? I think some people naturally have it. I think they walk in and Jesus, right? This person is going to walk through walls if they need to, right? Others, and most people, I should say, it's not so obvious, right? And to themselves, right? But with a bit of encouragement and motivation and success, they'll develop it, and they can develop it quite quickly, I think, But there are others then that I think no matter how much time and effort and energy you put in, they just won't develop it,
I agree. Yeah. Now, speaking about kind of performance management, which I think is kind of the topic of this podcast, for those in our audience who may not be using, this process in their SaaS business right now, why is performance management important, and at what point should they consider implementing it with their team? Is it from day one with one employee, or is it like 10, 20, 100 employees?
Great question. I think performance management has a very bad reputation. As soon as you say performance management, people think of the annual appraisal. They're walking into their boss's office. They suspect that their boss 2 minutes before they walked in is like scrambling, looking at the form from last year, right? The meeting lasts 20 minutes. It's awkward. Nobody wants to be there. The employee is like just waiting to hear, okay, what's my bonus or what's my pay rise? And that's all they're there for. So, nobody has a good experience of it. But none of that, in my view, is performance management. That is not performance management. That is a traditional annual appraisal process. And that process, that method, right, is 100 years old now, right? It was born in the civil service in the United States 100 years ago as a tool to stamp out or stop people promoting friends, promoting relatives, right? To try and promote a meritocracy in the civil service in the United States. So 100 years ago, that's when it was born, and that's what it was there to do. And it did that so well that it was adopted almost across every industry in North America. Today, 94% of organizations still do performance management. But the way it's done, the way it's done is it's no longer fit for purpose. So the idea that you can set goals at the start of the year, and at the end of the year you can tell somebody they're good, bad, and indifferent, and expect, right, that's going to motivate, that's going to accurately measure, that's going to align people with their organization's goals, is beyond ridiculous, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think so when people are thinking, oh, performance management, when should I do it? Don't think about that thing. Don't think about that annual appraisal. Think instead about setting near-term goals with your team, right? And measuring progress against those, right, all of the time. And talking not just about whether they hit it or they didn't, whether they're good, they're bad, they're a 0, they're a 1. Talking about why, right? And I think that's performance management. It's setting near-term goals, and then it's giving some helpful feedback along the way. You know, if they're smashing it, well done. Why? And what can we learn to help others smash it? If they're not, what are the barriers? What's in the way? And often what's in the way, the barrier, right? And often the reason for smashing it and succeeding isn't a skill, a hard skill, right? It's not down to their master's degree, right?
That's
it's
right.
not down to their 8 years of experience in a similar role in another organization. It's not down to any of that, their skill with using whatever tool or whatever. It's down to it's a soft skill. It's down to something like, conscientiousness, just keeping going. It's down to, attention to detail and picking a problem apart, innovation. It's down to some of that softer stuff. So I think that's where the conversations need to be. I mean, set near-term goals, monitor them, have conversations, when they're smashing them and when they're not, and what can you learn from that, really? I think that's performance management.
And when are you doing that? From employee number 1 or?
From employee, do it with yourself. I mean, set yourself your smart. I mean, one of the major obstacles, I think, is when, particularly the smaller you are and the faster you're growing, the one of the things that can, like, there's many things that can kill you. But one of the things that can kill you and seems to kill a lot of startups I've seen is they get very busy doing stuff, right? Day to day, hour to hour. They're working 80 hours a week, killing themselves doing things. But is there an end in sight? Is there a goal? Is this just busy work, or is there a series of goals? Is there a guiding strategy? So a lot of people aren't doing that, and it's killing startups. It's killing small businesses, stopping them scale. There very few of them are going back and looking at, in retrospect, okay, was that a stupid goal? Why did I hit it? Why didn't I? They're not doing that, and the kind of thing sometimes, it's uncomfortable work. It's hard to do. You're judging yourself, and that's never easy. And they kind of think, it's easy to say, look, I'm too busy for that stuff, right? I mean, you don't have time for that kind of navel gazing. We just got to get on, got to do stuff. But it's a mistake. So I think it's never too early to start a process of setting near-term goals, monitoring progress, and, asking yourself why, and by the way, although we are a software solution for doing just that, right? You don't need software to start doing it, and you don't need a form to start doing it, right? Bit of paper, 3 goals, put some dates around it and have some conversations. There you go.
Cool. So with WorkCompass specifically, are you only assessing the performance in terms of like a quantitative manner and, like those performance goals, or does it suggest like general specific course of action to improve in the future? And can you share any examples of that?
Good question. I suppose there's 3 facets or 3 elements that we're looking at helping managers and their teams manage. The first is the objectives or the outcomes. The second is the soft skills, the behavioral stuff, the competencies or core competencies. I mean, those abilities, we'll say, are practices that make the difference between good and great. And the third element we're trying to help people manage then is development, is employee development. You know, and if you want to keep high performers and attract new high performers, and who doesn't, the number one reason, despite what, so if you ask an employee, right, well, what do you want? You know, what would make you happier here, right? Or to go to a new business, what do you want, right? 9 times out of 10, they're going to say money, right? But but less than 1 time out of 10 is that actually the case. It's only about 8%. The thing that high performers want more than anything is development. And if you're giving it to them, they'll stay. If you're not, you know what? Their next boss will. All right. So I think it's those 3 elements trying to help people take care of the short-term objectives, the behavioral stuff that makes the difference between good and great, and the development.
Makes sense. So you mentioned kind of in the last several years, decades, or actually last 100 years, you can see the changes in the practice of what performance management is going through. Is it fair to assume that the majority, specifically in the SaaS industry, is now having discussions about the future, meaning they're no longer using annual performance and they're discussing like more frequent monthly basis?
That's a good question. Right? I mean, if you Google, trends in performance management, the thing that's going to be top of the list every single time is ongoing or continuous performance management, right? So that's so the behavioral scientists have been preaching this now. It's well proven, right, that this is the way to go. But are the software solution providers going down that road? I mean, there are some that are, right? But the problem that the traditional software providers have is they built their solutions on a different paradigm, right? They architected their solutions and designed them with, a transaction in mind, a form in mind, a box where you put information in mind. And forms, as we all know, do not, that's not management, So I think for the traditional performance management and HR vendors, it's an extremely difficult thing for them to move from this old paradigm to this new one because they're so incredibly different. So we're seeing new vendors like ourselves, right, that are, for organizations that want to make the change from traditional to new performance management, it's people like us that are coming to.
And what's your recommendation to implement an efficient performance appraisal system where employees, maybe you can help employees feel helped, or that you're there to develop them instead of being policed and micromanaged, right? Because that's why I think there might be that rebuttal back that you're implementing something to control versus like there to help them.
Yeah, I think it depends on the. It depends what, if anything, people are doing right now. So, I mean, say the majority of organizations have some performance management or performance appraisal, and they're probably setting goals at the start of the year and then having a annual or biannual 22-minute meeting. So my first piece of advice would be you're better off doing absolutely nothing than doing that, right? So stop that immediately. Okay? My second piece of advice would be to decouple conversations about performance from conversations about pay, reward, and remuneration, because it makes a nonsense of the conversation. It is not true in any organization, right, to say that the only thing that impacts on pay and bonus and remuneration is performance. It's just not true. A ton of other factors play a part. How the business itself is doing, cash flow, the market value for the position that you're in, how long you've been there, how hard it is to replace the person in that position, how strategic it is. All those things are factors that go into decisions about pay and reward and remuneration. So don't just say it's performance. It's all these other things too. Because when you say it's performance, you've got to almost lie. Say, oh my God, it's just performance. So this person has smashed it. They've absolutely killed it in terms of their targets. But I have to tell them that they're not meeting expectations because I don't have the money to pay them any more money. So it's confusing, it's demotivating, it's unfair, it's guaranteed to get high performers to start leaving your organization and demotivate those that stay. So I think that would be the second piece of advice. If you're having those conversations together, decouple them, right? And maybe the other piece of advice that I give people is, like 10 years ago, and maybe it's a little bit more, like a bunch of consultancies came up with this performance conversation method called the sandwich method, right? Which basically was say something nice, then say something horrible, and then say something nice again. Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, so you kind of sandwich the real message, the bad news, between two lovely slices of good news. Right? And the problem with that, right, is what's known as illusory superiority. The worse we are at something, the worse we are at judging how bad we are at it, right? So if we're really, if we suck at something, right, the chances are we think we're fantastic at it, right? So when you use the sandwich effect, people just don't get the message. They come away from the meeting thinking, mixed bag, pretty good here, pretty good there, maybe a little bit to improve here, but you know what? All in all, I'm killing it. Carry on. You know?
Okay. Yeah.
So don't do it, right? It may feel like the kindest thing not to deliver hard and painful feedback, but it is the best thing to do for people in terms of their career. Be honest, right? If you have bad news to deliver it, right? And deliver it clearly, and don't sugarcoat it, because the individual will likely miss the point, particularly when the consequences of poor performance are that somebody might lose their job. You know, most people that lose their job, you know, for a performance-related reason, are totally shocked. They're devastated by it, and it just rocks them, you know, because they didn't see it coming. And the reason they didn't see it coming is either, number one, the manager said, oh, Jesus, this is going to be a terrible conversation, I'm not going to have it, and they don't. Or they have a conversation, but they use the sandwich effect, method, and it goes completely over the head of the individual, but the person just doesn't get it. You know, they deserve to be told that this is serious, right? So they have an opportunity to correct it.
So just give it to them straight. So I know sometimes they feel kind of like they're putting in effort, but you know the result of it does not equal to the result of what you're looking for, right? So it's a little battle there, right?
Yeah, and why is that, right? I mean, there can be lots and lots of reasons. Maybe the goal is unreasonable. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's just not something that they're capable of doing. Maybe they need a bit of coaching or direction. You know. And to be honest, if you have like a 2-minute conversation about the right thing at the right time, believe me, it's worth 2 weeks of the wrong conversation at the wrong time. You know, so maybe they just need a little bit of advice, little coaching, a little bit of direction.
So forget the 1 year annual appraisals. How often are you recommending? I know there's quarterly OKRs. You can send monthly goals. You can do weekly check-ins. What's your suggested framework that works well for you, or you've seen work well?
I think you need at least quarterly OKRs.
Okay.
Right. And depending on your business, how quickly it's changing and how quickly it's scaling, maybe you need to be revisiting them even more often than that. How often should you be having a conversation with your team about those OKRs? On an ongoing basis. Right. I think even having a schedule around, okay, we're going to talk about OKRs on Wednesday. No, it should be part of day-to-day working life. Period. So I'd say no schedule, right? Talk about them all the time. And it doesn't have to be this big formal sit down, right? It could be 2 minutes in the lift. You know, it can be walking back from coffee. It's just a part of everyday working life. It's just part of who we are. We talk about our OKRs all the time.
Yeah, good point. So talking about AI, machine learning. So I know in your software, you identify areas and points for improvement. But then at the end of the day, the decision is taken by the management department and the employees on how to implement it. How are you thinking of leveraging, AI, machine learning, natural language processing to assess the actual business outcomes that are, quite specific?
Yeah, good question. We, I suppose, when we were when we started WorkCompass, right, the problem that we wanted to help people with was we just wanted to save people from this annual appraisal thing. Right? We wanted to make it ongoing, and we wanted to make it simple. And so we wanted something very agile, very quick, high net promoter score with like just real time analytics, right? And once we kind of done that, when we looked and just said we measure, we looked at, so, well, what kind of impact are we having? We were a bit surprised, and not in a good way, right? That we probably solved a problem, but not the problem. It was a bit of a false summit, to be honest with you, right? So we solved one problem, but what we found was people were writing gobbledygook in as goals, right? I mean, it was nonsense, and the feedback that people were giving was terrible in terms of the quality. There was nothing actionable in it. There was nothing helpful. So we were a little demoralized, and so we measured. So just to kind of put in perspective, said, okay, I mean, everybody is familiar with the SMART acronym on goal setting: specific, measurable, actionable, relevant, time bound. So we said, okay, let's just use that, right, as a measure of goal quality. And we took a sample of 10,000 goals and went through them to see, okay, are they specific? Are they measurable? Are they actionable? Et cetera, et cetera. And we found that, to our surprise, less than 2% were.
Wow.
So it was really, really low. We said, well, actually, maybe it's an unfair standard, right? So rather than a goal having to meet all of those 5 standards, we'll say, before we call it SMART, let's just back it off and call it 4 standards. And the less than 2% shot up to a massive 2.87%.
Okay, very
so it's
great.
Still less than 3% managed, met that criteria. So again, we said, oh my God, right? I mean, this is something that we need to help people with, right? And we also so we spent a long time figuring out, trying various different ways. Would we do it through coaching ourselves? Would we do it through prompts? Would we do it through examples? Would we give people templates? Tried all of that. None of it worked. So eventually we started, dabbling and playing with artificial intelligence. And after a couple of months of that, there was signs of life. Right, it said, this is promised, this might work. And 3.5 years later, right, we actually nailed it. Right, we actually got AI that could reliably guide a person through the process of setting a SMART goal. And by that I mean read what they're writing and suggest what they need to change or add or remove or edit, right, or modify to make their goals SMART, right?
Got it. And
we got the number up from about less than 3% of goals being SMART up to 97.3.
Wow.
Yeah. So we were thrilled, but I'm afraid again it turned out to be a bit of a false summit, because once we solved that problem, what we'd found was that the next piece in the process, which is doing anything about that, giving feedback, was brutal as well, right? We measured again, took another sample, 10,000 pieces of feedback to see, well, how much coaching is happening, and we found it was bad. It was like less than 8%. So that's where we focused our attention then. Again, using AI, and we brought that number up from less than 8% to 87%, I think, last measure. Does that kind of answer your question? I know that again, it's a long
I know
answer
it
to a short
does.
question, but
So having those smart, so you took that AI, you leveraged it, helped get the goals to be more clear and include all smart. And then now you also, you found that coaching wasn't part of that. So now combining smart and coaching together, what have you seen in terms of how that affected performance, if any?
Oh, so the impact that it has on the the combination of those, so simple process, ongoing analytics, smart goals, and coaching feedback, on average for our customers, it helps them increase their goals met or exceeded by 32%.
Okay.
Right, that's 9 months post go live. So after 9 months, they're seeing on average 32% increase in goals met or exceeded. And down to the fact that, there's far more focus now on what truly matters. People are much clearer about what's expected of them, and they're getting actionable feedback. Most feedback, when we measured the feedback that managers were giving, it was, oh my God, it was just not good, right? It was, most of the time, it was judgment. You're good, you're bad, you're indifferent. That, in terms of helping a person improve their performance, or does nothing, absolutely nothing, right? What helps people improve their performance is coaching, and by coaching I mean actionable feedback, right? So feedback, something they can do something with. So can I do something with this? Right? If you're telling me I'm brilliant, I mean, I'll feel good for a minute, right? But it has no lasting impact on my performance, right? By the way, it has no lasting impact on my engagement, on my motivation either, despite the fact that people think it does. Coaching has a very lasting impact on both, in terms of people improving performance and their motivation at work.
Okay. And then speaking about, development and also retention, I want to understand the onboarding part of employees onboarding their new hires. Do you guys provide any tools for helping with that? And is there any recommendations you have on how to improve that employee onboarding to make it, better retention overall?
I mean, this is a complex enough area that we're dealing in, right? It's quite it's a little subjective. It can be a little hard to get sometimes. So for every new customer, we appoint a customer success manager for every new account, right? And their job is to work. So it's a named person. It's not a help desk or not. It's a named person, and they work with the new client to configure the application the way they need it, to kind of put a roadmap together about how they're going to change that configuration over time. They train the administrators of the system, the employees, and the managers. But the training, to be honest, right, is more about not how to use the system, because it's very easy, Net Promoter Score of 92, as I said, but it's about why. Why should you care, right? Why should you invest time in this? Because a lot of the time, again, when people think about performance management, they think about that annual meeting that everybody hates. So do we invest in helping, in driving traction? Absolutely. We see ourselves, right, that if we help people at the very start, right, if we get our customers, our users to a certain level of traction, right, they're gone, they're launched, right, and you can, and that has a massive impact on their likelihood that they will renew. I mean, we're a SaaS business, we charge annual subscriptions, and if you get early traction, they're going to renew. But if you don't get early traction, nope.
Yep. Hiring. So I think this is probably a section that there's a whole interview around this, but I'm going to try to limit it. What do you look for when hiring and screening top performers to your own team? And do you have any favorite interview questions that you think reveal a lot about a person during an interview?
I think this is highly situational, right? And it depends on, how big your business is, how much you're growing, how aggressive you are. So for us, we're young, small, growing quickly. So when I'm hiring, I'm really looking for attitude first,
Mm.
And I think we can train and teach the skills, but if the attitude is there, if they're the right fit, if they're coming for the right reasons, they could be a high performer in our business. And coming for the right reasons, people that are excited by what we're doing, said, oh my God, like this is an opportunity for me that I mightn't get elsewhere. I can join a business that's growing quickly, I can, really accelerate my career here. If they're excited by that stuff, if they're not put off and daunted, and I'm very, very, very honest about what it takes to succeed in WorkCompass in terms of, it's hugely demanding in terms of your ability, your time, your talent, your patience,
Yeah.
your spouse or your partner, so I'm upfront with it, right? So if they know all of that, right, and they're like enthusiastic about the opportunity for them, that's a good sign that they might be a great fit. And I would take all that stuff over, years of experience, to be honest. In fact, I kind of shy away really from candidates that have lots and lots and lots of experience, because I think they can be quite set in their ways.
Yeah.
So somebody that's younger is more inclined to come with fresh thinking, a lot of energy, a very can-do attitude, and I think all those are just vital for a company like us.
Makes sense. And then, do you have any favorite questions that help reveal that about the person, that they're enthusiastic, other than asking them, like, are you enthusiastic about this job? Of course, they're going to say yes. Right?
I don't know, or I don't know if I do like have any magic questions. I like to just get them talking. I want to have a conversation with them, and I just want to see it, like, I just want to hear them talk and see them talk, right? And see, is there something about them? Do you know what I mean? Right? Yeah. I mean, when the going gets tough, cause it always will, right?
Mm-hmm.
What will this person do? How will they react? Will they fold? Will they get pissed off? Right? Will they go on LinkedIn and start looking for a new job? Right? Will they go as a challenge and say, I don't care what it takes, I'm getting over this wall, or around this hurdle or whatnot? How will they react? I wonder. So that's something I'm always thinking about. What will they be like? I mean, for me, I'm like, a lot of the time I'm wondering, what will they be like to manage? Because we're growing so quickly. Like, I really do need self-starters, and people that can come in, they'll hit the ground running. Now, I don't mean, all right, that, look, hey, they'll get zero management, figure it out, do or die. I don't mean that at all. You do really need to invest in helping people be successful. But will they be easy? Will they take a lot of management? Because if they do, probably won't work out with us. And again, I mean, grit. That's a big one for me.
Resourcefulness, I guess that's another word.
Yeah. I don't know. I know that's quite a vague answer, right? No. But I just want to have a talk to them, and I think people will succeed in different ways, Not everybody will succeed in the same way. Some people will succeed. Even salespeople. Some people are great at sales because they're just do so much research and they're high analytical and they're all about the process, and maybe they're not the best at building relationships. They don't even try. Some people will succeed, right, because they just will get to know the individual. Like, by the end of the process, they know their spouse, they know the names of their pets, they know, all that stuff. So some people will succeed. Some people will succeed in different ways and for different reasons. But do they? Is there something in them that they want to succeed? What's going to drive them on?
Yeah. So just final question on that sales topic. do you believe there's a secret ingredient to be efficient at selling, or what do you believe that salespeople do that make them inefficient or counterproductive and actually waste a lot of time?
Oh my
I know you just
God.
opened up a can of worms to you, but
Yeah, yeah. That's oh, I myself, I think process is very important.
Mm,
You know, I think that you have got to have a good. I think your sales process should be your star performer and not any individual salesperson.
mm,
You know, so you need to do a lot of work to figure out what's the right sales process for your buyer, right?
mm,
And you need to match your process to how they buy, right? So I mean, uh, so that's the first thing. You need to measure, right? It So you need to have a reliable, repeatable process that matches how your customer buys. You need to measure. And because if you do that, you'll spot the areas. Oh, okay, actually, we're having an issue here, moving from this step to this step. Why is that?
mm-hmm,
Once you've diagnosed the issue, you can go back. You can maybe listen to some calls with that salesperson and understand, okay, what do we think is going wrong here, and fix the issue, right? So
mm,
I think the sales process needs to be the star. In terms of the type of salesperson that I think works better or works best, um, I read a great book, and I'm just trying to think of the author's name, and I can't for the life of me recall it. But the book was called The Challenger Sale,
okay,
and I you know, that's one of the things I think, or one of the books, or one of the big learnings for me that we adopted in WorkCompass to with great success, right? Is that
mm-hmm,
the successful salesperson isn't the nicest. They're the ones that will challenge the buyer a little bit.
mm,
You know, they'll
mm,
maybe challenge their thinking a little bit. They'll push back when that needs to be.
mm-hmm,
They won't lead with price. They won't be afraid to have a disagreement with the person.
mm,
I think salespeople that rely only right on the relationship rarely smash it. You know,
yeah,
and a lot of salespeople, I think, particularly in bigger organizations, are just taking orders.
mm,
You know, they're
yeah.
not selling at all. You know.
Mm. Cool. We'll make a link to that book in the show note. The Sales Challenge, right? We'll look up
Oh,
the author.
the Challenger sale.
The
The
Challenger Sale.
Challenger sales for, yeah.
Cool. We'll find that. Thank you so much, Dennis. This has been great. How can our audience get in touch with you and learn more about your working on?
Email me, Denis at workcompass.com. So DENIS at WORKCOMPASS.com.
Okay. Awesome.
So I remember I met a guy a couple of years back, and he and his co-founder had built a massively successful food business, huge, and he still had on their contact page. He still had his mobile number, his cell phone
Oh,
number
wow.
on it. You know, I
Stick
remember saying to him,
on.
"Are you absolutely insane? Right? Why do you do that? Are you not just inundated with calls? You know?" And he said, "Not really." But he said, like, people ring him up like on a pretty frequent basis about all kinds of stuff, right? And he said,
Yeah.
it's like, it's always eye-opening. So I'm always delighted for people to contact me, like, even if it's not just like, not just to buy my software, but like just to share an experience they had, to ask a piece of advice, anything. I'm happy for people to contact me.
Awesome. So guys, take advantage of that. It's free advice there. Okay, cool. Thank you so much, Dennis. Highly appreciate it and very grateful for you to be here on today's episode.
It was my pleasure. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you all for watching this episode and joining SaaS District today. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for future episodes where we interview top leaders in the SaaS industry. If you're a SaaS company looking to grow and unlock the true value of your business, get in touch with us at Horizon Capital, and myself or one of our consultants will provide a free assessment to help you get there and hit your goals. If you have any feedback or suggestions for this podcast, please comment down below and help us improve our content for you all. Thanks again, and see you on the next one.